Good morning, I'm David Crary Jr. from Eastham, and I'm the Fire Management Officer here at Cape Cod National Seashore. Today we're working at the former MITRE site in South Truro, Massachusetts, a former research radar military site that's grown up over the years, and we are clearing vegetation from around these three former laboratories. Over 14,000 years ago, the last great glacial ice sheet left this area, leaving behind the substrate, which is Cape Cod. Vegetation's grown on that for at least the last 8,000 years, forest vegetation, and it's accumulated over those years. The material that was left by the glacier gives rise to a very xeric vegetation type. Pitch pine trees, huckleberry, black oaks, scrub oaks, those grow in very dry sites. The glacial ponds in Wellfleet and Truro, those deep, beautiful ponds, cores have been taken to the sediments, and then it's been analyzed for both charcoal layers and for pollen. The analysis of that shows that probably 3 times a century, every 30 to 40 years, a fire burned through the landscapes of Wellfleet and Truro, the landscape that you see behind me. Fires burn through this landscape every 30 or 40 years. And during that time, fuels accumulate, that is litter from the trees, that would be leaf litter from the deciduous trees, and needle cast from the conifer trees, plus branches and dead shrubs, and some trees blow over. There's a lot of accumulation of fuel. Every 30 or 40 years, the fire coming through will consume that fuel and set us back to an earlier seral stage and start another forest or start another grassland. Without the impact of fire, meaning if fire is disrupted and doesn't occur, the accumulation of fuel just keeps going. Here at the seashore, we're about 60 to 80 years without a major fire, so we have twice the amount of accumulated fuel on most of the landscape. This accumulation will, at some point, burn. Now, we are burning it proactively through prescribed burning, but there will be a wildfire, and it will consume all of that material. In a high wind, very dry situation, the landscape will change quite drastically and very quickly. Each of the towns of the Lower Cape, the fire chief, who happens to be the fire warden, is in charge of all wildland fire activity. That would be suppression and prescribed fire. The National Seashore has agreements with each of the towns that we will conduct prescribed fires on National Seashore properties, and we can also assist the town on any prescribed fire within its boundary. The Cape Cod National Seashore conducts about 40 prescribed burns a year. We also, during the spring open burn season, conduct pile burns where we remove vegetation, pile it, and burn it. We take the forest products, the debris, and we dispose of them through fire. Often areas where we do cut, pile, and burn projects, we will come back in a year or two and conduct a prescribed burn, a broadcast burn, where we burn almost every square foot of the area or the forest behind me. We use water resources. We have engines, sprinkler lines, hose lines. We sometimes rake fuel out of the way. An area with no fuel won't burn. And we use roads, trails, power lines, electric lines. We use water bodies when we burn in and around the Herring River in Wellfleet. All of those areas, those control lines, are used to maintain a safe perimeter around a prescribed fire. Prescribed fire reduces the risk of wildland fire because we remove fuels. The more often we remove fuels with prescribed fire, the less intense a fire can be, and the easier any fire would be to suppress. We monitor the effectiveness of our burns, and we apply fire again. When we have a full forest, as you see behind me, we often burn once, and then within 7 years we burn again. And then the rotation would be 13 to 30 years after that until we get back to that 3 times a century cycle that I discussed earlier.